Hello, ladies. Welcome back to Sports and Mimosas. We're back for another week. Meredith and I, how are you doing?
Doing well. Just
Yeah.
hanging. I mean this in the most positive way. I feel like I'm just hanging on by a thread.
We were talking about
It's
it.
like not in a bad way, like not that like I'm about to lose it, but like in a what? Like how is it
Right.
already like how is it almost July? Like that's where my brain
I
is.
know. Like we were saying, like we you said you haven't felt you're not feeling like you've caught up from the start of the year.
Yeah.
And I feel the same, like I've been behind. But I think this heat too. I don't know about everyone else, but it's like
My friend just
heat.
texted me. He's in New York and he was like, "How's Louisiana doing? I'm not looking forward to returning to the heat." And I'm like, "No, no, no, I don't think you understand. Like it's really bad."
Right. We barely just entered summer and it was like scorching before that. So we have a hot one coming. Um, but last week we did not film. We weren't able to film. And that was following the NBA finals where we have an NBA champion. The last time we did record though, we had asked you, Meredith, who was your pick because you had Boston and
My
Dallas.
two
Oh,
teams. My
your
two
two teams.
teams. My
I
two
was going
babes.
for Dallas because again, Laker fans, we cannot or Laker fans cannot go for Boston.
Makes sense.
But it was not what we both were expecting.
None. It was nothing what I was expecting.
So,
Nothing what I was
so
expecting.
to catch everyone up, the Boston Celtics are our champions. They have 18 now. They were tied with the Lakers. That's why it's one of the biggest rivals, 17-17. They're up now, one ahead of the Lakers. But we thought it was going to be a tighter matchup.
Really did.
Boston just took over. Like Dallas got one win.
And it wasn't
But
like if you follow me on Instagram, you know how I was handling all of it. But
check on her.
it was, and I did again. I know I said I was going for the Mavericks, but I really knew that I knew deep down that the Celtics had it. Like I think there was more weighing on the Celtics. Like if they did not win, like that was just going to be really bad. But I kind of thought it was going to be closer, and it just was a sweep in nearly all the games. And then they go back to Dallas, and
They get a
like
win.
the Friday night Mavericks just like demolished them. Like demolished them in game 4 that I'm like what is this? Like what are you doing? Why are you doing like how did anyone let that
Why
happen
are
on
you
both
doing this
sides? Like how
now?
did both sides do that to me? And then of course, and I'm glad that the Celtics just kind of had every story for them. They had the fact that like they had just been the first leading the whole league all year. They were the first to the wins, they were the first to clinch it, just had everything. Then Bill Walton, who is a Hall of Famer with the Celtics, he passed away just before. And I think like there's always just that good like do it for them. They had this one fan who was like 90 something and he's like, look, all I want. I think he like
Oh,
phrased it like there's
that's
not a
nice.
lot left in this world that I want. And he's like, I really just
Oh,
want them to send like I want them to hang number 18, like the 18th banner. I want to
yeah.
see it happen. So like they just had a lot of the
Good for
history
him.
there. And
But
I do think so. Then they eventually won it in game 5. I remember we discussed that we thought it was going to go to game 7 at least, but I do think there were some games that, and we have to remember that Luka's like 25 or like 27, like he's just young, and I think he showed his age this series. And again, I don't think they're already ranking them to be like a top 5 finisher next year. Like they're already like again, this season wasn't for and like for nothing.
oh yeah.
But I do think I was not expecting his age to show as I don't want to say badly but like it just showed that like okay, he still has to work on this and he still has to work on like not bitching to the like it's kind of like his thing to bitch to the officials and stuff. And I think it's kind of like I think it's just you kind of showed your age, and especially having someone like Kyrie who has matured, who has done right next to him to see like, oh, Luca has some growing up to do kind of situation. And again, I love Luca, but it was just very apparent that like the Celtics were the more seasoned team. And again, just the history. And I had to send some stuff to Aaron that I didn't realize that they now led the Lakers
Yeah.
in the championship. And I kind of like that it was a team effort with the like Jaylen Brown, is it Jaylen Brown who won MVP? Like it was Tatum, it was Drew Holiday, like people just kind of, again, they were just the more collected team, I
Yeah.
think, then.
And then Al
Dallas is just
Horford,
young, and I think you don't realize it until they were up against like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
Al Horford, who I think he played at Florida. I didn't realize he was Dominican, so he was the first Dominican player to win a
And he's also like
championship.
the oldest.
Yeah, but I did
Like,
not
I didn't realize
realize.
that storyline either. Like
Yeah,
he
there
had
were
been in the
so
league
many
for
that
like
came out.
17 years and never, is
Yeah,
insane. So
yeah,
like again, like I think I just kind of was like all focused on Luca versus like Tatum, that like I just forgot. Like
well, I
I
think we
feel like
paid.
as the series went out, I was like, oh, they do have so many storylines for the
Yeah,
Celtics that like how do you go against them
because we pay
besides the fact
attention.
that they're the Celtics, you know?
Yeah, we pay attention more to like the bigger names, and so obviously Jaylen Brown, and then Jason Tatum was the biggest one off of their side, so we heard that a little bit more. The cutest thing that came out from that win for me was the picture with Deuce
Juice. And
um
it's so funny because I
and
texted you,
Jason.
like, I feel like he didn't get much coverage in the set. Like, I feel like for those of you who don't know, Juice is Tatum's like 4-year-old son, something
Yeah,
like that. And he
he's a
always has
sweetheart.
him on the sidelines, I mean, on the court, like always just things like that. And I feel like they kept him away for a little bit. And I literally texted you the night that they clinched it, like the not that clinched to go to the playoffs. I was like, "Where's Deuce? I need
Yeah,
Deuce. I want Deuce content." And then they I feel like they kept him away, and then the finals
and then
happened,
the final.
and there he was. I was like, I really wanted it for
Maybe he
Deuce.
had to finish school or something. They were like, "You can't
That's a
go.
very good point. Maybe it was like, hey,
You can't go to this game, but
full
maybe the next
graduations.
one." But no, that was the cutest. So yeah, for Laker fans, I think Kevin Garnett said this on his, or him and Paul Pierce were talking about this on their podcast, how that the Laker fans are just so rude about the win. Like we're just so pissed. But if the Boston Celtics had lost or the Lakers had won and Boston wasn't in it, they'd be like, oh, good for them, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but even Magic Johnson tweeted after that game and was like, pretty much like, damn, like they have one up on us. Like, I hate this. And it
He's
was
like, I hate this about it. Like he was like, I hate typing
that's
that they have more than us. Yeah.
but I think that's so fun in sports because it's all love still, and just that rivalry when you have a good rivalry like that. Um, and I know I'm gonna switch sports, but like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, speaking of them, they were like the big rivals. They matched up against each other in college, and then went Boston and Lakers and kept, meeting up, and that they were a rival, but they were really, friends or whatever.
Yeah. Well,
Or
they have like such a
actually,
really cool storyline. This is just like side note, but like they weren't always like that because I think kind of like the media, like
yeah,
whatever,
that's
but
what I
they
said
had to
eventually.
do a Converse commercial and they filmed it on Larry Bird's like property.
Mhm.
And on the lunch break, Magic thought he was like going to go back to his trailer and like do it. And Larry Bird was like, do you want to come have dinner, like lunch? My mom's cooking. And like they became like good friends. Like, and it
Your
was just
mom's
like this whole
cooking.
like, I don't know, like it's such a good
Yeah.
story to hear because there's also like not to get really deep into it, you didn't ask to do this, but like there was a lot of race, like Boston's
Oh
known
yeah,
to be
but
very
yeah, definitely.
racist, and like there's just a bunch of backstory to that. And I think like Larry never commented on it, and I think like Larry came from like a very he was like his from like a place called like French like Indian like, but so I think there are a lot of stereotypes thrown into it, and like Magic said he like I was treated like anybody else, like it was kind of just, again, like like with sports still to this day there's
Right.
just more to the story than, yeah.
Yeah. And that's where media, the problem always comes in because they blow it up. And so the reason why we're speaking of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson is because Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese had their third matchup of the season
Yes.
over the
It
weekend. Was
wasn't
it
this one, correct
Friday
me if I'm wrong. Is this one like I've
or
been
Sunday?
hearing that this is the one that mattered. So is this one like on
Yeah,
ESPN and like okay.
yeah, it was on ESPN, but it also because they're getting close to like playoffs. So it's like the 8 teams. So if you're eight
Yes.
and over, you're gonna go to the playoffs. And this put Chicago in the eighth spot. So they didn't clinch it because I think it could still move, but this put them up. So and it put the Fever down, Caitlin Clark down. But
Mhm.
people are talking after this game. So the first two matchups with the Fever and Chicago, the Fever have won both of those games. This
Yes.
game was in Chicago on Sunday, and the Chicago Sky were down, I think, like 15
Yeah.
points at one time, like before the fourth quarter, I think. And the Chicago Sky rallied back. Angel Reese kind of led
Just
that. She was
dominated it.
it was like LSU. Like she
Yes.
was like LSU. When she played at LSU, it reminded me of that. But she was like amazing in that game. And I don't know, I think she had another double double. I don't think she,
I think she did.
yeah, I
And
think
she
she
like
did
set
double
the record because now she's like set the most, I think, double doubles by a rookie.
double. Yeah, she matched Asia Wilson last game or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so Chicago got the win. And so now they're kind of pitting it. And I think they asked before this game, like, is this a rivalry, Chicago and the Fever? And
Yeah.
it's kind of like, no. Well, both of the girls say no, that this is competition and all of that. But do you
Well, like
think that
Caitlin
the
Clark
Larry
was
Bird
quoted
and
that it's not a rivalry, it's just like how you play the game. Like they're kind
yeah,
of
that's what
making
they're
it into a rivalry. But like I also feel like, I mean, maybe there just be a better word, but like I do think it's like you have to know that like even Magic compared them. Like Magic came out and said like it's a lot about like me and it's a lot of relation like correlations with me and Larry.
but it
Like
could be that the media made it because we have made
yeah.
it because we picked a side from
Mhm.
college. Fan
Yeah.
bases have picked a side.
But like look at how that also like helps it grow at the same
Right.
time. Like, you know what I mean? I think it's kind of like a double-edged sword because I'm sure it annoys them, but
But
people
then I think
people love a good storyline, you
and
know?
I think it could be a healthy competition in the fact like we have battled through high school. I mean, I think they did play each other in high school, like
I think they knew of each other. I
good
don't know if
stuff.
they yeah.
Yeah. But we battled through college for sure. You know, um, Caitlin didn't get a ring, a championship. So it's kind of like it carries over, like who's better. But I think it could be fun, but we shouldn't, as fans or the
Yeah.
media, make it outside of that, like take it outside of the competition. Like they can be cool, but like when it's on the
And
court,
I do
that could
think
be
that's
tough.
like how it's already beating because I
Right.
think and like we talked about this in another podcast, like they are getting ahead of the media of like, I don't hate her.
Hmm.
And like I feel like that's just any kind of competitor. Like I remember I would tackle girls in flag football and but like I feel like the moment I got off that field, I was a completely different I was like, hey, like but again, like once you step on that court or once you step on that, you know, it's just a
And I think
different you're just a different
most
person.
athletes can turn off, or you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like when you're on the field, you're someone else. Just like I think any entertainment, and I mean, regular people could do that. When you're at work, you put on a different persona because
Yeah.
this is your professional, but then you can be loose at home. And like Beyonce, she says when she's on stage, she's Sasha Fierce. Like she
Yeah.
turns in because
Alter ego, yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
your alter ego. So, and I think we all have that. And so there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you see them talking, but that's the fun part. You see them talking trash on the court. You think that they're upset, but then they can
Did you
fake
see that?
after.
Did you see
Angel and her last name is Smith off of the Fever.
yeah, and like the ref was trying to say something, they're like, we're
Yeah,
cool.
that was funny. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and I think that kind of just shows like let them be. Like let them play. Like
Right. What's wrong with talking until they get
yeah.
physical?
Well,
in
I
not
think it's
playing
just kind of like,
basketball,
not to make it
doing that.
like, different for like women, but it is like Larry Bird was like biggest trash talker. Like
Kobe
people
Bryant.
still talk to this day of like how Larry Bird would just say shit to you and then like dunk a three, like
Well, I mean,
not
but
dunk
that's
a
how
three, but
you
like
get in
shoot a
their
three.
head.
Yeah. And like Kobe did it. Like the greatest ones do it, I feel like the one, and I'm like, the moment like a girl tries to do it, it's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
And then
no,
it's
like,
like, you're a woman too, ref. Like, please, you should
yeah.
know this.
And like
Don't
it's
stop.
so funny that they both like at the same time,
But
like they're Angel and the other girl, they're like,
they
no,
were like shooing her away, like, it's okay.
no, we're
Go
just
on.
talking. Like, we'll be texting after this. Like, don't like yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to see more, and I do hope that this Angel goes into the playoffs. I don't know how that will work because if it's final, but I know that game did push them over into that 8 seed. Um, so, but Caitlin and
And
them
I'm
are
really
doing well.
sad about Cameron Brink.
Brink, yes. So yeah, that happened in
Like
between
last week or whatever. Yeah.
our last, and so Cameron Brink, who was number 2 drafted, she played at Stanford. Now she's with the Los Angeles Sparks. And she had just got put on the 3-by-3 basketball
Yeah.
USA basketball team for the Olympics. And she was it in her Achilles or
Yeah, it's her ACL. It's her
yeah,
ACL.
ACL.
Which is
She
wild because if you watch the injury, you wouldn't think that that was what
or
came
something.
out of it. But
Then she couldn't walk off. I didn't watch the game, but I saw, the stories
yeah,
after. But so she's out, and they just announced one of her teammates is
replacement. Yeah.
gonna be her replacement for the Olympics. But that just sucks, like obviously for that to happen your rookie year, but then also when she was gonna go to the Olympics, and so you're gonna have to wait another 4 years to hopefully
It'll be
go
fine.
back. So that just
Speaking of someone who had to, well, I guess we can talk about that later.
what? No, we can.
Well, speaking of like having to wait for the Olympics, Shikari qualified for the
Yeah,
Olympics, and I know that we're going to go back to the NBA
going
at
to
one point for
Paris.
the draft, but I think it's kind of fun to watch that she qualified because 4 years ago, what's
Yeah,
her last name? I just knew her, Shikari,
Richardson,
but
Shikari
Richardson. Yes,
Richardson.
she a couple of years ago, she was qualifying and she had tested positive for marijuana. So she was disqualified. And there's a lot of talks about it because weed is supposed to be the sport
She
that makes
shouldn't
you
have it. Yeah.
slow. And again, it was just a situation that was unfortunate. So, but she has, I mean, I feel like she's done such a good job at carrying that and like kind of
Well,
just
her
shutting.
attitude right after was so
Yes.
positive and
Yes.
like,
And she was like, hey, this is what happened. Like, I should have
yeah,
made better
like that's big
decisions.
because she
Yeah.
could have been pissed, like
Yeah.
literally and shown that, but she
Yeah.
was
But she probably was like, I only have me to like this is me. This is what I did. And like she's just come out and like ever since then, like I remember I still keep tabs on her like throughout the year. She was just
mhm.
breaking records after records. So like for her to have that moment this weekend was so
Grandmother was in the audience and was crying too. Well, her family, but her
yeah.
grandmother was, and I know that's a big part of her life. Her grandmother, I thought that was so sweet. I cried watching that video of
No,
her, the
I loved it. And
reaction.
I think like she's just no match for anyone else. Like so like the fact that like like I kind of just like I get so sentimental because I just think like what's going through her mind when she crosses
Right.
that finish line. Like of all like the adversity that she had to go through in the last 4 years to be
And she
like,
think of it, and she started like oh, I can't think of what it's called, but when she came out of the block, she like they were saying watching it that she kind of I don't know if it was stumbled, but the way she came out, she was slow, but then she like surpassed everyone. Like she didn't come out strong.
mm-hmm,
But the fact that she didn't give up, it reminds me of that football clip, and I don't know who it was, but where the guy dropped the kick return and it
mm-hmm.
bounced in the end zone. I don't know how old it is, but he caught it or he picked it up and then ran it all the way back for a touchdown. So it was like it doesn't matter if you mess up, like if it starts off bad, like you just have to finish. And that like is what she
This like
did.
reminds
She didn't
me.
have a good start, but she ended up passing everyone and won.
Have you watched? This is so sidetracked. Have you watched The Boys in the Boat?
No.
It's a George Clooney movie. It's about the rowing team from the Olympics, like during World War II, or I guess, yeah, I guess it was World War II. It was like Nazi Germany. Like the Olympics were in Germany, and it's like when Hitler was there and all this stuff.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't think the war had happened yet.
Yeah.
But it's like this, but it's like these kids like in college, and they're like the junior varsity rowing team. And normally, like the varsity team would be the one to like go to
Mm,
Olympics, and he chooses the junior varsity people, and people are like, what? Like whatever. And it's honestly, it's a great story, like talking about like overcoming stuff. Like one guy has like pneumonia and like all that, like it's a wild, like George Clooney talked about how like he read the story of it and he was like, no one, if like there were not records of this, if we threw this in the movie, everyone would be like, that didn't really happen. That didn't really like just crazy stuff.
yeah.
And because there's like in this fine, but they do this thing, they have this person who like yells at you like to keep you like on track and like all this
Mm,
stuff. I can't remember what they call them, but I have a point to the story. But like the like it would be like they would start like almost like a boat behind people because like the other ones would just go super like fast right
yeah.
off and they would be behind, but they would like kick it into like
The energy to,
speed like in the middle of it and they would eventually, but like by then the other people are tired and they're like, no, we have it, like it's just so, oh my god, it's such a good movie. But that's what that reminds me of, like if you use it all in the beginning, like you still have, like again, it's not, what is it, like it's not a, a marathon, not a sprint, like it's
yeah,
literally, that's
just,
what they're doing.
yeah.
But yeah, sorry, that's a
No,
really long story.
I'm super excited to see Shikari in the Olympics. And then we have trials are going on for like swimming, um, and gymnastics starts. And I was saying we just switched our cable and we don't have NBC, which is crazy. So I need to figure out quickly what streaming, if I have Peacock or what, because I love the gymnastics is my favorite overall of the Olympics. But I was like, I cannot miss anything from the Olympics for sure. And in swimming, it was it the first Black woman?
I think so.
Lady that was it qualified, I guess, and Michael Phelps was like going crazy for her in the booth or
Mm,
something. Um,
yeah,
so that was pretty exciting, but I couldn't watch it because I don't have I don't know about Peacock.
yeah,
So if you guys have DirecTV, you don't have NBC, so make sure you get whatever streaming Peacock or whatever so that you can watch the Olympics.
watch the Olympics. No, it's gonna be a
Uh,
beautiful time. Simone's back.
yes.
'Cause remember, I think a lot of people forget that like 4 years ago was like her big mental health thing.
Yeah, she started out and then she's pulled
Hmm.
away after like one time she competed,
Yes.
I think. One
But like
professional.
I think there's a whole, I haven't
She
watched it.
wasn't.
I think she did like a whole documentary or something on but like what she was going through at that
That
time.
actually comes out this week, or it came
Is
out,
it?
or is it
Okay.
in July? Because I want to watch it. It's coming out like right before. I don't know if it's in July or not, but yeah, she talks about that whole time and what she was, going through thinking. I think it's in July. Let's see, because I want you guys to watch that. If not, I did share it.
July 17th.
July 17th.
That's my friend's due date. Sorry. I was like, oh, I know
It
something.
was right before, because I think that's a week before the Olympics actually start.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's going to be interesting to watch. Um, so going back to the NBA, something crazy. I was talking to a friend yesterday on Instagram. We were talking about it because JJ Redick is now the coach of the Lakers. I like JJ in college. I think he's
Who
good.
was he
He's
for? Was
been
he
a
Duke or North Carolina?
Duke
That's it.
because
Like
he's
the
played
blue
in the
team.
NBA for 15 season or 11 season. I think 15 seasons. He was 11th overall. 15 seasons, but he has no coaching experience except for I think like boys and girls or like some
Like 4-year old, like
kids.
fourth
Yeah,
grader, something.
yeah. That's his only
Have you
experience.
seen all the jokes of like it's like his screen of like 2022 to 2023, like fourth grade, whatever, and then it's like now
Yes,
coach the Lakers, and they're like, this is what I mean when I want God to like elevate my
yes. So
plans.
that's
Like
sent me my friend, and we were talking about that. And so I was saying so to catch everyone up, he doesn't have coaching experience to the level that you would think you would need to have to be the head coach of an
But
NBA
also,
team
I want to
is going to be the
interject,
Lakers.
if you know this, just because you're the Laker fan. How many coaches have they been through
A
recently?
lot since Phil Jackson. Like every
Yes.
2 years, we've two,
Yes.
3 years.
I feel like that's important to the story. Like,
It is, but then who is our issue? Now, LeBron wasn't there the whole time
right.
that we have had that because Phil has
I
been gone
forget
for a
about how
while.
you feel about LeBron.
Yeah, Phil has been gone for a while, but more back on JJ before we
And
go.
they were,
I
but
want to
they
hear.
also sent an offer to the UConn coach,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So they did send an offer. So yes. So the Lakers did send an offer to the UConn boy men's coach who has won the championship for the last 2 years, and he turned it down. But
Jeannie Buss was not happy about that.
they have been saying before that if you take it, it's kind of like we just said, every coach since Phil Jackson has only been there for 2 or 3 years and they get let go. So it's
Do you
kind of
think
like
that
a
that has a
curse.
lot to do with the Laker organization, or do you think that that's just like the standard of NBA now?
No, that's the Lakers. Because we're not winning and then we get rid of the coach. I think it's the Lakers. So
You said it so quickly. It's the Lakers.
yeah, it's us.
Okay, just
We
asking.
need to figure out something. We have not been right since Phil Jackson left. Oh, well, obviously we did win one after in 2020, the bubble, if that counts. Some of us don't think it counts. But so JJ was second choice pretty much. JJ has said that he wants to get into coaching, but usually when that happens, you become an assistant coach, part of the coaching staff, and then you work your way up. Tyronn Lue did that. Tyronn Lue's a coach, but he has experience. So we hired this guy who has no experience. But what we think is the reason is that he is good friends with LeBron. They have a podcast together prior to this. So were they like gearing up for this? Because how do you have a podcast with your coach before he's your coach? And
But
there's
he said
also
he's not having any more podcasts now.
well now, but LeBron was or they did say
Aaron, I
LeBron
need
said
you to be, I know you're doing such a good job for the listeners, but I need you to lay out how you really feel about this. I need to know how you really feel about this.
I don't know how I feel. Like I'm like, okay, so with that meme, I'm like, okay, yes, that is true. Like if God brings it to you, we've talked about both of us are
Yeah.
spiritual. If God brings it to you, like you don't have to have the experience. Like people in jobs every day don't have the experience and get jobs, because of people they know. And what if he turned around like Steve Kerr came in and he, made a difference? So I'm hopeful in that. But then it is also scary that we went from a great coach in college now, but he's still great, to JJ, who doesn't have any experience. So it's kind of like, and as a Laker fan, like we have not been the same. I feel like we have not been the same. We just want to get back and then we do this.
Yeah.
But maybe it'll work for LeBron because I don't know if LeBron has been the one clashing with the coaches in the past, but maybe because he's good friends with JJ, maybe it'll work out since he's going to be sticking around. And it is the NBA draft tonight, the first round. So JJ Redick got to do his first pick. I was nervous because I was like, please do not let Bronny James be picked. But the
That's my
Lakers did
dream.
not select him for this round. It could be next round though, because some were saying like it would go second round, like they went
Yeah.
their first pick on him. So, what are your thoughts about JJ? I know you're not a Laker fan, but just the idea.
I like JJ. I think it's peculiar. I'm not
Would
gonna
you
lie. I
like
think
this
it's
if Dallas was like, go get someone that doesn't have?
yeah, like I'm with you on it. Like that, I'm like, this is peculiar. Like, And
Like, is
I
there no other coach? And like Monty, oh, I can't think of his last name right now. I think he was coach for the Pelicans at one time.
know who you're talking about.
Williams,
Oh,
Monty
sorry.
Williams.
I know him.
Like, I think
Um,
he's available, but they didn't go after him.
like I think it's kind of like one of those things where it's like it could be that it's one of those crazy sports things where it's like this could be crazy, and if he brings them to a championship, it's like, oh, this is what we needed all along.
But
Like, you
this
know
is
what I mean?
our storyline for next year. Okay, maybe.
Yes, but like at the same time, I do feel like it's setting up like if this goes terribly wrong, and I think okay, I'm gonna say this and because I'm a Celtics fan, and like there's just a different caliber of franchises when you talk about the Lakers and the Celtics, that to have something like this be in the hands of someone who has never coached an NBA game. He's played, but like
Yes, he's played. But
and it's
leading men and then
yes.
guys that are coming from college after this
And
draft. So now
again,
you have to
like
yeah.
Jason Kidd, for example, Jason Kidd played, but he also was like an assistant coach because before he became a Mavericks
I
head
don't think
coach.
anyone has done this or not recently. Like everyone has been an
Like that's
assistant
where it's
coach.
kind of like it'd be one thing. Like again, I think this is like a risk that like if you're like the worst team in the league, like what the hell? Let's just
Not
go
the
get JJ
Lakers.
Redick. You know what I mean? But to have the caliber of franchise that the Lakers have, I'm very surprised. I'm very surprised. I
Yeah.
know that Jeannie Buss was not happy that they let UConn guy leave.
But
I'm gonna be
I think also him, you mentioned it. I think too, some people are like, no, let me stick with with college. I'm comfortable. He could be making a good salary and then it just works there. And then again, to have the Lakers, I don't know if I would take that as the first one out and I wasn't ready and I mess up. That's where I'm like, dang, JJ is not fearful at all, which I give him props for that because I don't know if I didn't have experience, if that would be the team I would take. I'd be like, I'm not about to mess this up.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, to your point of that, like I don't know if I would do that from JJ's point, but that's
I
cool.
just and again, like his ties to people. Like again, it's just
Yeah,
gonna be very
that's the questionable part.
like okay.
And then someone was like, JJ should be like, I don't want to be your sloppy seconds because they came to him after. But then when you have no experience, you gotta
Yeah. Like I'm just like
or no professional experience coaching because he does coach. But yeah. So we'll see. Maybe that will be our storyline. That's where I'm like back and forth. I'm like, let's be hopeful. Maybe this will work out for us.
I just am scared we're gonna be talking about it in the middle of a season and be like, oh, so this is not going. How many years is it?
Huh?
How many years is his contract?
Was it 3? I don't know. Let me see.
Well, that's longer than most. Because like again, like that's just like okay. So then, but it also leads me to: do you give a guy who's never coached
4 years.
before longer of a chance to win?
But I think
Because, or
everyone
do
else
you give him a shorter chance to, like, if you're firing people who have coaching experience only 2 years,
but
how long do you give the guy who's never coached?
2 years. That's what they're gonna do. He better him and LeBron better get to work for LeBron's last one to last year. I don't know. I don't know if they signed LeBron James against. I saw something where it said 3 years, but you can't believe like stuff you see on like scrolling through and I'm like, I don't even know if this is a reliable source. But oh, I guess they were saying that the Lakers would offer LeBron James 3-year max. So that gives him the same amount that JJ, except well, JJ has a 4 year. So
This is a little,
I don't know.
this is a little puppet stringsy.
Yeah. Where, yeah, I don't know how I feel about this for real though. I really hope that okay, I'm gonna be wrong. Like we're all gonna be wrong and JJ's gonna do the miracle. and it's going to be great.
We're
That's
gonna
what
put
I'm.
that out there. We talked about being bold before we hit record. That's
Right.
our
That's what I'm hoping. But then we have Boston and Dallas who's coming up, and then Memphis and all of these other teams that are just the Knicks.
Minnesota's been doing great. Like again, Anthony, like that's gonna
Yeah,
it's anybody's game next year.
we'll see. We'll see if it's maybe need
TBD.
a bubble again, because then we would win. I love my Lakers though. We can only talk about them, but yeah. So that has been what I've been kind of paying attention to. That I'm just like, oh my gosh. And then of course the NBA draft, seeing who they take. I don't really watch the NBA draft because it's so many guys that I don't know because of
Yeah. Well, then like
some
this
over.
is the second year that they got a French player first. Because last year
Yeah,
was Wimpy, and this year was Zachary
actually
something.
two French went first, and
Yeah.
then yeah,
So like they've
all over there.
yeah.
Or they make some good players.
Yes.
But so some other sporting news, what's going on in golf? Because that's been some stuff, I don't know, is it
So this is golf season. A lot of tournaments are happening, and there's been like the US Open happened. And I think Travelers, I can't remember. Yeah, I think Travelers Cup just happened. I think but either way, let me look it up. Scotty Scheffler won his, I think, sixth win. I'm gonna pull it up. Sorry guys. I knew this before and then now I can't think of it. Um he where are the sorry. Well, we haven't talked about the players, which is like where Bryson DeChambeau won, and he's like one of the live golfers, so he's been
I
kind
was
of
gonna say
like
we
a
haven't talked about
controversy.
Liv. Yeah.
Wait, what?
I said we haven't talked about like Live
Yeah.
and PGA
So
PGA.
2 weeks ago, he was playing the major, and he it came down to him and Rory McIlroy. And like there's been a lot of talks with Rory because he was like the guy who was a really big advocate for PGA, and then he kind of got screwed over and like all the stuff. And oh no, sorry, what okay, sorry. Oh, yes, it was the US Open. Sorry. They all just like blend in together. Sorry. So the US Open was 2 weeks ago as Father's Day weekend, and it came down to Bryson and Rory. And Rory missed like in his final like 4 holes, he missed some major putts. And so if we've ever talked about it, yeah, you can hit the driver and hit the ball as far as you want, but all the money is made in putting. Putting as a golfer, putting is bread and butter, whatever. So like, but it's not easy. It's very difficult to putt. Like that's why the great ones are great because they can do it. And Rory missed some very clutch putts that he finished, and he went over, um, he went, I think he bogeyed on the final hole, and Bryson was very close behind him, and Bryson had to make it from, he like had like a bunker shot, and he had to like hit it onto the green, and he hit it so well, such a clutch bunkers the sand, which is very hard to hit out of. He hit it, and then he made it on par, so he won. Like, but it was so close because it was like, is he gonna hit it? Is he gonna like? Because we discussed, I think last year, Wyndham or earlier this year, no, it was last year. Can't remember. Wyndham Clark lost because it like did the circle around the hole, it like flipped out, and like Scotty Scheffler ended up winning. Like it's just been, golf is intense. So Rory is kind of like took a break this week, and because he just needs to think about things, which I think is really kind of shitty. I'm going to be very honest. I think if you're the face of things, you just kind of have to like be able to take it. But that's just me.
Yeah.
And so this week it was, I really think it was the Travelers, but I could be wrong. And let me make sure. But Scotty Scheffler won it. So Scotty won his, I think his sixth one this year or this past week, and that I think he's tied on Arnold Palmer for the most wins before July. So it's like a really big, and again, he's
And
just the
when
number
does
one in the
season
world.
usually end? Like when's the end of the season?
I think the last major is in July.
Okay.
So, but they're going to the Olympics. He's on the Olympic team, and I can't remember who else, but so golf is in the Olympics. I don't think I knew that. So
No, I did not. So that is good to know.
yeah.
But
And
yes,
then
Scotty didn't have a his year was kind of like crazy, like outside of golf and even in golf, but he's like
he's had a
doing good
baby.
in golf.
He's been
Yeah.
arrested.
But he's doing
And he's
good.
doing really well. Like
Yeah.
the one that tournament with the kid, like with the arrest, he didn't do well that year, and he didn't do well at the Open, which was weird. Like he hit like 4 bogeys, which he had never done like in a really long time. So like that just shows you how golf is. That like you can have the terrible week and then come back and like win it and bag $3 million like it's nothing. So shows you golf.
Hold you until the next tournament.
Yeah, it's like insane. And but that's what's been on my radar. I've also been watching the Astros have finally hit a .5 winning percentage, which I've been really needing because I haven't been paying, we haven't talked a lot about it, but it's kind of been a slow or kind of a quiet season in my perspective of the MLB.
But I'm
Uh
sure it'll pick up because we're getting halfway through
pick
the
up. Yeah.
season.
And we always tell people, and this is I've said that before on this podcast, that doesn't nothing really matters until All-Star break, because this is like when we've said it, when you're hot, you're hot. And a
Hmm.
lot of them there's always like that one team that just kind of does just enough to get to the playoffs, and then they just hit their streak and can win the series. So that's why I'm always like, I don't get bummed completely if my team starts rough, or if one team gets really hot in the beginning. I'm like, it can be completely different in August. So like we'll see. So
Yep.
like 'cause this week the Astros swept the Orioles, and the Orioles have been doing like it just and
Yeah.
then I mean the Rockies aren't the best, but like to have 2 sweeps and just being like, okay, well, like you all were losing everything and now you're like coming hot. So that just shows you the beauty of baseball.
Yeah. Well,
And
yeah, and
then
that's always been the thing is like you have to leave that the last game behind because the next one can make a difference. Like there's so many games in the series that you have. So it's like you start fresh because it's a new game and stuff. It's not over
yeah.
until it's over. But
And then you can
have
get
a
hot
long
at
way to
any
go.
time. I think that's like the craziest sport. I mean, every sport has its like crazy concept, but like again, you can have a terrible like again, like the Astros are just hitting .5 and it's the end of June, and you can't like I'm not saying this just because I'm an Astros fan. Like they could be in the World Series, and I would be like, they could if they get hot at the right time. And they've had a lot of injuries
Yeah.
and just God, so
Yep.
many injuries. But like that's another thing that affects your sport. That it's like you could
And
be
they
doing
and
like
they
you
play
could
so
lose
much.
your major guy and just skirt by, and that person gets healthy in end of August, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
go.
you can
So
recover a lot faster in this sport than any like football. If it's a long sport, like you go, I mean, a long recovery, more than a couple weeks, you might be done for the season.
exactly. So
But for baseball,
or if you're just like Aaron Rodgers, just take some mushrooms and you're fine.
he'll be fine. I
Yeah.
can't wait to see about him. We haven't heard a lot about him, which I'm like all of the
Kind of
football.
happy about. Yeah.
Right. All of the football conversations have started because they're training camps and getting back in there, but it doesn't seem as much as it was last year or the year before. So I'm like, okay, this is good that we're not hearing all Aaron, Aaron. We still hear all Dallas, Dallas, but so anywho, we'll start hearing probably more of that in July because August preseason will start.
So that's kind of what's golf, baseball, and just the Olympics are on my radar.
Yeah.
What about you?
That in WNBA.
And
So
W, yeah.
definitely Olympics, WNBA. There was a meme, and I shared it and I had to think about it because it was like football, like now that basketball's over, the NBA is over, that we're like, oh, now the summer we have nothing to do until 74 days until football, and like it counted down all those sports. And then I was like, oh yeah. But then I was like, but wait, we have WNBA going on right now, the MLB, and then the Olympics are coming up. So I'm like, the summer is still
I love a good
short.
summer
You
Olympics
just don't
here.
have it every single day. Like WNBA will take a break
Yeah.
when the Olympics start. Um, it's just not like your regular Sundays that
Yeah.
he enjoys for because of football. But yeah, WNBA for sure. In the Olympics. And then again, I don't watch baseball on TV, but games that I can get to and still trying to follow along with how the Dodgers are doing, and will we make it again to the playoffs and hopefully to the
Will
World
be.
Series. So maybe I can have one team beat your team this year.
One
It's
team.
something. It already didn't happen in football or basketball. Ah, for 2024.
Honestly, my Texas teams have been letting me down. So, like the fact that I could go in today and saying, "Oh my God, the Astros are really decent," has been because when the Mavs were doing bad, I was like, "My God," and the Astros were losing. I was like, "My God, I can't like
I'm
count on
just gonna
any team to
turn
do
off
this for
everything.
me."
Right. But
Like, I'm glad, like Scotty Scheffler's from Texas, and that's the one good person out of Texas that's helping me. I'm like, okay,
and you're from Louisiana, not even Texas.
I know. Like, I just feel like we need more teams here.
We do. We don't have enough teams here.
I do
LA,
feel
we
like
have
we need to.
plenty of teams. Here, no, we don't. So we have LSU.
And that's,
Folks.
yeah. Which like made me really sad. College World Series happened this past week, and like a year ago today is when we won. LSU
Yep.
won.
And so the winner of the champions for the
Tennessee.
men's college World Series.
Tennessee. And I feel like if I can't win,
That was
Peyton's
their
team
first
can
one.
win, so it's fine. Wait, what?
That was Tennessee's first
Yep.
for men's
And
championship.
the why it was like their first, like within like because something happened. They won something like years ago, and then like that was also the same year that they won something football. So they're saying like, oh, the last time this happened.
Oh,
They also won that, but it was like their first, so I, you know how like they change leagues and like things like
yeah.
that. It was something like that. But I was like, that's not gonna happen. Like
Not on the football
we're not
side.
gonna let that happen.
No, no, no.
Yes.
But yeah, so we'll get ready for the Olympics. We'll be back. Um, and we'll be talking about those summer sports
Yes.
because we
I
don't
can't
have
wait for the
football or
storylines for the
basketball.
Olympics. We'll have more of those whenever it gets closer.
Yes, there'll be lots more. But thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for joining me, Meredith, and talking
Yes.
sports. I missed it last week, especially since after the NBA finals, but I'm glad we got to catch up. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Please like and subscribe and follow us on Instagram.
Mhm.
Um, and subscribe to our newsletter so you know when we have events coming up if you're here in the Baton Rouge area. And we will be playing NFL fantasy football this year. So we'll have some information coming. Anyone can play that from anywhere. It's a virtual thing. So look out for that if you want to play. It helps you learn the game. But that will be coming. But until next time, enjoy your weekend. Try and find the Olympic trials that are going on. Watch that. I'm gonna go find me an app so I can watch that. But have a great rest of the week and weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Whoop.
Bye.
Bye.